What's up, everybody? Weston here with the Hidden Gibbon, and a couple weeks ago, I asked a simple question on the old community tab. I asked for some of your hot takes, and I got a couple answers. We're working on it. We're a small channel, so, we can get some more engagement later. But between the three of you that answered, and between the folks in my friend group and my own hot takes, I figured I'd go through some of the hot takes. So the question was behind it is, give me some of your hot takes. I'm not going to roast any of them, but I'm going to kind of analyze them and look at the merits both for and against and, see where we stand on it and give my own opinions on it. So without further ado, let's get straight into community hot takes for Magic the Gathering. In at number one, we have from Andrea JG Jigesh. Landfall is a joke, since for common sense we cannot interact with lands, resulting in a non-interactable mechanic. Honestly, I get that. I agree. I play some landfall decks, like I play Azusa, I play Tatiova, and yeah, since we cannot interact with lands entering the battlefield, or it's just really difficult to interact with. And as landfall keeps power creeping and power creeping and power creeping, the stuff just gets more and more out of control. And at best, you can stop a second trigger, right? So if somebody plays a land and their Tatiova activates, you can use that trigger on the stack to kill the Tatiova. But if you don't have removal right there on the spot, people just have magical Christmas land that you can do pretty much nothing about. And lands entering the battlefield doesn't use the stack. It doesn't use priority or anything like that. So, you're just left there holding your grip full of cards, just like, my goodness gracious, is going to take forever. Andrea, I agree with you wholeheartedly on this, that Wizards needs to just, in the future, because we do have some very strong landfall cards, and you know what? I actually benefited from landfall back in the day when I played Zoo with Step Links. I kept a one-land hand once and killed somebody on turn 3. That was pretty fun. I see landfall as one of those mechanics that's very, very high up there, like Storm, that has to be very closely watched and very delicately designed to not be an absolutely nutty mechanic, since it's so hard to interact with, especially if it's on like an enchantment or an artifact, or God forbid they ever make a battle with landfall. Just very tricky. You know what? I get your hot take. I really do. You know what? If we were to rate these hot takes on a scale of 1 to, I can't really justify it, to 10, I can justify. I'll put this at about a 7. 7 of 10. For I get this. And you know what? I empathize with it and I agree with it. Next, we have ourselves, that's Buddhist, with Commander Player here. In my honest opinion, players focus too much on ramp and not enough on card velocity. You can drive the car, but if you run out of gas, the wheels don't matter. You know what? Honestly, that makes sense. And this goes to the core of how to build a balanced deck. So you will hear a lot of times like, you gotta have ramp, you gotta have ramp, you gotta have ramp. But if you open up a full grip of cards, and this happened to me when I was designing my Azusa deck, the first iteration of it, I just put in so much ramp that I would have a full grip of ramp cards and then sit there with an empty hand and 10 lands on the battlefield and nothing down. You have to find a way to, one, balance how many ramp spells you have in your deck as compared to threats and engine, and then two, balance the quality of your ramp spells. So I try to get like 2-for-1s. I really like Open the Way as a ramp spell. I like Kodama's Reach. The ones that let me grab multiple lands, always good. And especially like the ones that are like 2, 3, 4 cost. Those are my happy range. Entish Restoration, Harrow, the not quite Harrow that came from the Avatar: The Last Airbender set. Those are all ones that I see as high value, and those are the ones that I run. I usually try to run 5 or 6 ramp spells at the most, unless I'm really going hard into like a mono green specifically landfall deck, then I might push it to 7 or 8. But don't go over that, because you still have to find ways to put in your card draw, like that's here says. You have to be able to have the engine in the deck to be able to run, right? So what's the point of having all those lands if you don't have things like Genesis Wave, Eldrazi, Craterhoof Behemoth, I don't know, some card named Big Chungus number 7. You gotta have you gotta find that balance. And so what I would highly recommend is I use Moxfield, and I know some people use Archidekt, but use one of those to build the deck. And I don't know if Archidekt has a goldfish system like what Moxfield does, but after I design a deck for a deck tech, I go and I goldfish and I goldfish and I goldfish and I play the first several turns out. I would highly recommend when you do that with with your decks to balance out that ramp to bomb and engine cards, and kind of feel where you want to hit your stride into deck. Do you want to hit your stride late game in like turns 5, 6, or do you want to hit your stride early in like 1, 2, or do you want to hit your stride in 3, 4? And then always take into consideration the amount of mana that your cards cost. On Moxfield down at the bottom, it will show you your mana, the amount of cards at each mana cost, and then if you click on them, it will tell you the percentage chance of playing those on curve. Next and last for the viewer submitted ones, we have Frost Spork, actually my first member. Thank you, Frost Spork, by the way, for being a member. That's wonderful and appreciated. I think Blood Moon and other such effects that punish non-basic lands should be allowed in bracket 3. You know what? You, friend, you are preaching to the choir, because I am a firm believer in stacks and in Blood Moon effects, because we have gotten so absolutely gun shy about interacting with lands that lands like Field of the Dead, Gaia's Cradle, or some of the other really strong lands that can come in at bracket 3 get to run Magical Christmas Land, while most people don't have ways of getting it. Sure, somebody might play a Wasteland here or there, or a Ghost Quarter here or there, but there's not a whole lot of ways to punish it. Me, one way I like to punish non-basic lands, I run Price of Progress, because, you know what, I'm a basic land enjoyer. And it's mostly because I have an absurd amount of unlimited and revised basics, and I love them to death. Yes, I know they're white border. I know white border is gross, but I do love them a lot. And so I run a lot of basics also because I am unwilling to buy dual lands at this point in time in my life, because I have a mortgage to pay and a daughter that I have to save for college on. You know, she's going to be 3 this year. And so I got 15 years of not buying dual lands to make sure I get her into college, because this is the United States and everything is super expensive. Yeah, like I see it as like Blood Moon. I'm fine with that. It encourages people to play basics. And to be honest with you, Blood Moon is less effective at bracket 2. The higher the brackets you go, the more effective it is. And bracket 3, I do think it's okay. I know that goes against the bracket system. I really do. Because I know people don't want to start justifying things like Armageddon, because I don't think Armageddon should be allowed. But non-basic land, hey, I think is perfectly fine. Because if you're a budget player and you only have like the stack of basics, right? Then you need a way to kind of balance out that budgetary effect. So if somebody's got all these big dual lands and stuff, you can drop down a Blood Moon or a Harbinger of the Seas and make them all islands or make them all mountains. And then your opponent, who has a higher budget than you, if they were building their deck correctly, should have enchantment removal to deal with that, and it punishes them for not running basics. Always, this also goes with a lesson, always run at least some basics in your deck. Always run enough basics that if your non-basics get messed with, you can still function to a reasonable degree with your deck. That's very important. But yes, Frostfork, absolutely, I agree with you on this. I think that there needs to be more ways to hit non-basic lands, and I think they should be allowed in bracket 3. I really do, because that's where you're going to start seeing your Field of the Deads, your Gaia's Cradles, and I don't always have the Wasteland or the Strip Mine on hand. So there. So that was the last of the ones from the viewer comments. If you've got some hot takes, drop them in the comments down below, and you know what? We can make it into a weekly series or something like that. But I asked my friends in the chat for some Magic the Gathering hot takes, and Mitch actually had one. He will be returning to the channel, but he started a new job and is very busy with that and his own family, so he'll get back into it when he can. But his comment is that Commander is a terrible place for people to learn Magic the Gathering. And honestly, that, like, I agree with that. There are a lot of people out there, a lot of different channels. You will always hear the phrase, like, Commander's bad to learn Magic, and a bad way for new players to learn Magic. And I kind of agree with that, because it takes a game that's already complicated and complicates it even further. So what I would recommend for learning Magic is... honestly, you can still learn via Commander, but do 1v1 Commander. That is something that my wife, Danae, and I did when she started learning. We used Arena. Actually, this is my endorsement. Use Arena to learn how to learn the very basics of Magic. Danae had never played Magic, never played any TCG ever, and caught on really well to Magic via Arena. The lands tapping for you helped out. It's free to play. You never even have to like play against real people. You can practice against Sparky, the little bot. That's what my friend Andy is actually doing. He is playing against Sparky, the little bot, to learn Magic. And then I'm kind of like giving him some tips and hints along the way. So that I actually think might currently be the best way to learn how to play Magic is via Magic Arena. You can have it on your phone. You can have it on your computer. It's super easy to get into. I'm not sponsored by that, by the way. I'm not sponsored by anybody. I'm a tiny channel, right? I am sponsored by my wallet and my wife's generosity of allowing me to have time to do it. But MTG Arena, it'll help teach people Magic, and there's still ways for you to play 1v1. And then what I would say is once you have the core mechanics down, you can try Brawl on Arena, which is 100 card, 25 life, 1v1 Commander. Then from there, move on to playing like with an actual paper Commander deck, 1v1, or if you really want to get things down, you can try some constructed like Standard or stuff, but I wouldn't recommend those because right now Standard's very expensive. Higher skill floor, and honestly Draft is also really difficult because Draft, despite what some people might think, is extremely complicated to get right. And so yeah, playing 1v1 Commander, and then what you do is once you feel comfortable with the core mechanics and things like that, I would encourage you to play in a pod with your friends. I wouldn't go to like a random group right away. Is play in a pod with friends. And then ask active questions. Always ask, like, how does this work? How does that work? Because if they're really your friends, they will always help you and always encourage you along the way. With my friend Andy, he would ask, when he plays on Arena, he asks some questions. I try to answer it in the best way that I can, because for me, it serves no purpose if somebody gets frustrated and ends up stopping playing Magic. I love Magic. I love when people can come into the game and form new memories and make friends. And so, like, helping people get into Magic. And so it's like a multifaceted approach. Like I said, step 1, download Arena, use Arena. Step 2, play Arena Brawl, and or in-person 1v1 Commander games, so that way you can understand the Commander format. And then last, play actual Commander if that's the game mode you want to learn. If you want to learn a constructed format like Standard, I would highly recommend that you go onto YouTube. Once you've learned those core mechanics of Magic, you can play Standard on Arena. Try it on there with the cards that you have. You're gonna get stomped because you won't have the card pool right away. But you know, that gives you a hint at what the meta is. And then I'd highly recommend searching up a lot of the really wonderful Magic the Gathering content creators that play things like Standard, Legacy, etc., and then watching their gameplay. But yeah, that is that hot take there. And then, yeah, you know what? We'll cut it off there. Just 4 real short, real simple hot takes. If you've got some hot takes, like I said, put them in the comments down below. I would love to make this like a reoccurring series. I think that, you know, this channel is best when I'm making viewer request deck techs, taking the interactions from you folks on the channel and like putting it out there, and I absolutely love it. This channel is a really fun hobby for me. I really truly enjoy it. But as always, I'm Weston with the Hidden Gibbon, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.